Why did France invade Mexico in 1861? Unveiling a forgotten chapter of imperial ambition. Step back in time to an era of grand empires and audacious gambles. Discover the hidden story of France's invasion of Mexico in 1861, a tale of debt, ambition, and the clash of civilizations. In 1861, Mexico was a nation grappling with the aftermath of decades of internal conflict following its independence from Spain. The young republic was burdened by immense debts owed to European powers, a consequence of years of political instability and economic mismanagement. The situation reached a critical point when Benito Juárez, a liberal reformer, assumed the presidency. Juárez inherited a depleted treasury and made the difficult decision to suspend payments on foreign debts for a period of 2 years. This act, while intended to stabilize the nation's finances, provided a convenient pretext for European intervention. Britain, Spain, and France, the major creditors, initially agreed to a joint expedition to Mexican ports, ostensibly to secure the repayment of their loans. However, beneath the surface of this financial dispute lay a far more ambitious agenda, particularly on the part of France. The transformation of a debt collection mission into a full-scale invasion was driven by the grand vision of Napoleon III, the nephew of the legendary Napoleon Bonaparte. Having ascended to power and restored the French Empire, Napoleon III sought to emulate his uncle's glory and establish France as the dominant global power. He envisioned a revitalized French Empire that would rival the British and assert its influence across the globe. Mexico, in Napoleon III's eyes, was not merely a debtor nation, but a strategic prize. He envisioned establishing a Latin empire in the New World, a sphere of influence that would counterbalance the growing power of the Anglo-Saxon United States. This new empire would not only provide access to Mexico's rich silver mines and other resources, but also serve as a gateway to lucrative trade routes with Asia. The ambition was nothing short of creating a French-dominated economic and political bloc in the Americas. The timing of the French intervention was no accident. The outbreak of the American Civil War in April 1861 presented Napoleon III with a unique opportunity. With the United States embroiled in its own internal conflict, the Monroe Doctrine, which had long served as a barrier to European colonization in the Americas, was effectively unenforceable. The United States, preoccupied with its own survival, was in no position to prevent European powers from meddling in the affairs of the Western Hemisphere. As one French diplomat shrewdly observed to Napoleon III, "Never again will such a golden opportunity present itself. The Americans are killing each other off, and we are free to act." This calculation, while strategically astute in the short term, would ultimately prove to be a grave misjudgment of the long-term consequences. A key element of Napoleon III's plan was the installation of a European monarch on the Mexican throne. His chosen candidate was Archduke Ferdinand Maximilian of Austria, a member of the Habsburg dynasty. Maximilian, a romantic idealist with liberal leanings, harbored genuine aspirations of bringing enlightened rule and progress to Mexico. He was accompanied by his ambitious wife, Charlotte of Belgium, who shared his dreams of imperial grandeur. In a twist of fate, Maximilian's liberal ideals often clashed with the conservative factions in Mexico, who initially supported his rule. He sincerely believed in his mission to modernize and stabilize the country, but he was ultimately a pawn in Napoleon III's geopolitical game, unaware of the true extent of his manipulation. Napoleon III and his military planners underestimated the fierce resistance that their invasion would provoke. Benito Juárez, the democratically elected president of Mexico, refused to surrender his claim to legitimacy and led a determined republican resistance from the northern states. He rallied the Mexican people to defend their sovereignty and independence against foreign invaders. More importantly, ordinary Mexicans from all walks of life rose up in arms to defend their homeland. On May 5, 1862, now celebrated as Cinco de Mayo, Mexican forces achieved a stunning victory against the French army at the Battle of Puebla. Although the French eventually overcame this setback and installed Maximilian as emperor in 1864, the Mexican resistance never wavered. As the American Civil War drew to a close in 1865, the United States turned its attention to the situation in Mexico with growing concern. Secretary of State William Seward, under President Andrew Johnson, began to exert increasing diplomatic pressure on France to withdraw its troops. At the same time, General Philip Sheridan was dispatched to the Rio Grande with 50,000 battle-hardened Union troops, sending a clear message to Napoleon III. The United States made it clear that the Monroe Doctrine had not been abandoned, but merely temporarily set aside due to the Civil War. With a powerful army now available for deployment, Napoleon III faced the prospect of a potential war with a reinvigorated United States if he persisted in Mexico. By 1866, the financial strain of maintaining a large military presence in Mexico was taking a heavy toll on the French treasury. The cost of the intervention, coupled with other pressing domestic concerns, began to outweigh the perceived benefits of the Mexican adventure. Simultaneously, the rising power of Prussia in Europe demanded Napoleon III's attention closer to home. The growing threat from Prussia, led by Otto von Bismarck, forced Napoleon III to reassess his priorities and divert resources away from Mexico. The Mexican adventure, once envisioned as a path to glory, had become a costly distraction from more pressing European concerns. In a dramatic turn of events, Napoleon III made the decision to withdraw French troops from Mexico in 1867, effectively abandoning Maximilian to his fate. Despite pleas from his supporters to abdicate and return to Europe, Maximilian refused to abandon his loyal followers and chose to remain in Mexico. Captured by Republican forces, Maximilian was put on trial and sentenced to death. On June 19, 1867, he faced a firing squad, uttering his last words, "I forgive everyone, and I pray that everyone may forgive me. May my blood which is about to be shed be for the good of the country." His execution marked the end of the Second Mexican Empire and the triumph of the Mexican Republic. The French intervention in Mexico stands as a cautionary tale of imperial overreach and miscalculation. What began as a debt collection mission evolved into a grand strategic gambit that ultimately failed in the face of determined national resistance. For Mexico, the conflict represented a second war of independence, solidifying Benito Juárez's status as a national hero and strengthening Mexican identity and sovereignty. For France, the adventure foreshadowed its decline as a global power. Within 3 years of withdrawing from Mexico, Napoleon III himself would be captured by Prussian forces during the Franco-Prussian War, bringing an end to the Second French Empire. The intervention demonstrated the limits of imperial power and the importance of understanding the will of the people. Perhaps most significantly, the episode reinforced the Monroe Doctrine and American hegemony in the Western Hemisphere. The United States had demonstrated its resolve to prevent European colonization in the Americas and its growing power to enforce this policy. The French intervention in Mexico thus represents not just a failed imperial project, but a pivotal moment in the geopolitical development of the American continent. A moment when old world ambitions collided with new world realities, with consequences that would echo through subsequent centuries. Ready to delve deeper into the fascinating world of 19th century history? Like this video, subscribe to our channel for more captivating historical documentaries, and share this story with fellow history enthusiasts. Let's keep the past alive.